All right, guys. So today I want to make a little video for you talking about the most important question for you to ask yourself in this process, okay? If you haven't asked yourself this yet, then start right now. Okay, so if you're like I was, then you might sometimes think, like, I want porn and that's just the way it is. I'm a guy. I'll always have this problem or some version of this, right? If you're thinking thoughts like these, then you're probably going to go a couple different directions. Okay, either you're going to feel hopeless, powerless, or, and that's not a useful space for what you're trying to do here, right? Or you might become apathetic to the situation because you don't want to feel that pain of continually disappointing yourself. So part of you says, I'll just give up fighting this because it's no use anyway. And then you're in that apathy, and that doesn't really get you anywhere either, right? So what it all boils down to is the question, can your brain change or not? And I want you to ask yourself this, okay? So in other words, can you learn new things or not? Can you change the neural pathways in your brain or not? If you struggle with pornography or with anything in your life for that matter, this is the most important question you can ask yourself, okay? And that your answer for it is absolutely crucial and pivotal to whether you find success or not, okay? So pretty straightforward. Your brain can either change or it can't, all right? So if your brain can change, then all of this effort is worth it, okay? Everything you're trying to stop looking at porn is going to contribute in some way, and it's worth going after, right? If your brain can't change, then you may as well just give up now because it's useless, right? And if you haven't asked yourself what you believe here, and you're unconsciously believing that your brain can't change in this way, then it's going to affect you really negatively, and you're not going to find the success you're looking for, okay? So the truth is, your brain can change, okay? It's called neuroplasticity, something that we're learning more and more about, and the nerve cells in your brain can change. They can form new pathways, old pathways can drift away, okay? You can learn, and this has been true since the first time you learned to open your eyes, since you learned how to walk, okay? In my blog post today, in my email I'm sending to you, I give an example of a kid learning how to walk, okay? And I compare it to how we approach this problem with pornography. With a kid learning how to walk, do we give up on them? Right? Does the kid give up on himself? No, it's that'd be ridiculous, right? Oh, he hasn't learned how, and he's already 1.5, and he's still falling a lot, so he's not going to make it. This one's not going to learn. We don't do that. We believe they're going to learn how to walk, right? And the kid believes he is going to learn how to walk, okay? The kid doesn't sit around wishing the process could be different or thinking it should be easier or faster, right? The kid takes what they have in that moment, which is that current moment, okay? They can't change the past. They can't change how many times they've fallen already, and they don't want to change it, right? And then the only thing they can do to affect the future is control right now. So what are they going to do right now? And that's the same with us and our problem, okay? We can sit around saying, oh, I've fallen too many times. I don't deserve to learn how to walk at this point, right? But that's just ridiculous when you think about a kid learning how to walk. They deserve to learn how to walk, and they're going to, right? And they don't tell themselves this is going to be too much work or too hard. They just go. And I think that they've decided long before they actually learn how to walk that they are going to figure it out. So how can you apply that mentality, that growth mindset to you in this issue with pornography, right? Have you decided that you can't change this on some level in your mind, or have you decided that you can? and that you absolutely will, and you will figure it out, right? Because that's the space that's going to help you learn how to stop looking at porn. Okay. So forget what's true or not true here, or what's right or wrong, or what makes sense, doesn't make sense. Okay. Ultimately, what you believe or don't believe is a choice. Okay. And it doesn't have to be true or make sense for you to believe it. Your brain will believe what you tell it to believe. Okay. And so you want to ask yourself, what do you believe here? Do you believe you can change or not? And I encourage you to decide right now what you want to believe. Okay. Do you believe that you can change or not? And what's going to get you where you want to be? You might have to remake this decision along the way. There are going to be times where maybe you drift into something that you've believed in the past because you're good at that already, but just decide and redecide and commit to believing what you want to believe here. If you believe that you can change, absolutely, then you will change. It starts there. And then what else I would say about this is it's not other people's job to believe in you, okay? That's your job and nobody else's. The only person that gets to choose what you believe is you, okay? If you sit around waiting for someone else to do that for you, then it won't happen. It's all up to you. All right, so I am going to share just a few tips here on how to do this. So you've got basically what they say, one of my therapists told me this, neurons that fire together, wire together, okay? So your nerve cells are called neurons, and neural pathway is just a word for a bunch of neurons that are connected together that help serve a certain purpose in your brain, okay? And you learn them. So here are 3 principles of how neural pathways work that are really useful to understand, okay? So number 1 is that reward strengthens pathways, your neural pathways. Dopamine is an example of the neurotransmitter that creates that pleasure that you get from porn, and it rewards it, strengthens your neural pathways, okay? So that's part of why this habit of porn can feel so powerful, like overpowering sometimes. It's because the reward is intense, and that really strengthens neural pathways, okay? Number 2 is that significant emotion strengthens pathways, okay? And then the third thing is that repetition strengthens pathways. So with these 3 principles in mind, if you want to change your neural pathways and learn something new to serve you and get you where you want to be, learn how to stop looking at porn, then you want to do these 3 things. Number 1, you want to remove the reward for unwanted pathways or add a reward for a wanted pathway, right? Number 2, you want to create a strong emotion for the new pathway that you're wanting. And number 3, you want to use repetition with the wanted pathway to strengthen it, okay? So I'm going to go in depth a little bit on those 3 things, okay? So first of all is removing the reward from the unwanted pathway. The way that you can do this is a skill that I teach that's called allowing an urge, okay? So basically, you have an urge to look at porn, right? You feel that desire, that sort of craving. And then you go and you look at porn, okay? So then that porn is the reward for the pathway, okay? And a lot of times that urge can feel really uncomfortable to us, and it feels like, ooh, better do something quick about this. I want to get away from this urge. That's our initial reaction that a lot of people have. We resist or avoid or react to it, okay? But allowing an urge is different. Allowing an urge is that pathway begins, the neural pathway, you have the urge, okay? And that comes from some thought that's happening in your mind that you want to look into what those thoughts are creating your urge. It could be as simple as, I want this right now, okay? Or I need this right now, or I deserve this after a long day, whatever it is. So then you sit with that urge, and rather than let the pathway complete with the reward of porn, you sit with the urge in a peaceful way, okay? And it can be really uncomfortable, but you sit with it until it drifts away. Like a cloud in the sky is how a meditation app taught me, okay? And it will. This happens. You can process an urge without rewarding it. And then the more you remove that reward, the more times you do this, the weaker that pathway will become, and the weaker your urges become, and the less frequent you'll experience those urges, okay? That's a big part of what I teach my clients and what we work on. So allowing an urge is the first thing. And then the way that a fun way that you can add a reward for the desired pathway is if you allow an urge like this and do it without rewarding, right? And it's not white knuckling, okay? It's like you're just letting it be there. You're letting the feeling be there. You're realizing it's just a feeling, just vibrations in your body that cannot harm you, and you just sit with it, okay? And then if you're able to do that until it processes and is gone, then you can get an urge jar, okay, and put a bead in it or a little pretty rock or whatever you want to do until you have 100 in that jar, okay? And once you've allowed 100 urges, you will be in a very different place than you are now. If you don't want to do the urge jar, then just keep a list and write it down on your list till you have 100. But this can be, the urge jar can be a fun, like tangible reward to show your brain and make your brain think, hey, look, we did something and got something for it, okay? All right, the second thing, create a strong emotion for the new pathway. So the emotion for your new desired neural pathway must be stronger than the emotion in your current neural pathway that leads to porn and masturbation. So something that I would hear people talk about in 12 steps is that they hit rock bottom, right? And then I sat there wondering, like, did I hit my rock bottom? And if I haven't, do I need to hit it before I really am motivated to find success with this? And it's almost like this rock bottom had a life of its own and was external to me, okay? And like I had no control over it. But that was scary and confusing, and it didn't really help me to think about it that way. But here's the thing. What I found is you don't have to hit rock bottom to find success with this, okay? And all rock bottom really means is that that person's pain from the consequences of using pornography is finally more than the amount of pain that their addiction helps them to avoid, right? So the cost of their addiction is outweighing the benefit of the addiction. But this is just as they perceive it in their mind, right? And that's the only way that really determines the rock bottom is what they are experiencing in their mind at that current moment. So the question is can you just create this rock bottom effect in your mind right now? And that's what this process here, this second process here is about, okay? So you don't have to wait and see what your rock bottom is. You can just decide right now how, and use this neural pathway principle to your advantage and create a stronger emotion for the new pathway that you want right now than the old pathway that you currently have. Okay, so one way I do this with my clients is I call it the why, okay? So it's one of the first exercises I have them do, and I just have them answer the question, why do you want to stop looking at porn? Not very complicated, right? But how they answer is so important, and sometimes their reason is pretty weak to start out, or their reasons are full of thoughts that create shame or fear or emotions that don't really help, and actually they can lead to more porn use. But if their commitment to this needs to be epic, right, then their reason for stopping needs to also be epic. Okay, it needs to be compelling, needs to be powerful, inspiring, encouraging, hopeful, full of self-compassion, and no judgment in it. Okay, so this why, asking yourself why, and coming up with a really good reason that creates emotions in you that are more powerful than the ones that lead you to porn is a way you can do this. Okay. So then the third principle we're talking about here is using repetition with your wanted neural pathway. Okay. So this is one we all know, right? The repetition is a law of learning. If you do it lots of times, then it's going to strengthen. You're going to learn it better. And if you don't do it for a while, then you won't, right? I used to have all sorts of songs memorized on the piano that I could play. And now I can't remember a lot of them because I just haven't been playing them regularly, right? So how can you use this to your advantage, right? We understand this, but we don't do it, right? We don't always use this principle, even though it's a very simple one. So first of all, if you interrupt your current pathways of leading to porn, the more that you don't complete those pathways and don't use them, the more those will weaken over time and drift away, right? And then on the flip side, how can you use this for the new pathways, right? So what I have my clients do with the why, like I talked about, is I recommend that they review it every single day, at least every day, if not a few times a day. And it's also an evolving thing, so I have them change it over time and build it into something better and more effective, more helpful, more powerful. Okay. And then if you review it, and you can do this with any new belief or anything you're trying to do, it's like a mental rehearsal exercise where you want to have that thing in your face multiple times a day, at least every day, and have that repetition really serving you for what you want. Okay. So the questions I have for you that you can look at for yourself is, first, do you have a good why, right? And then what other ways can you think of to use repetition to your advantage? How can you create stronger emotions for the new pathways that you want, that are stronger than the emotions in your current pathways that lead to pornography? And how can you remove rewards from your current pornography pathways and add rewards to your new desired pathways? So those are the things I want you to put your brain to work on. And good luck, and let me know how it goes.